Hey folks, welcome to Fyreflye's Follies. I hope that you enjoy the video today. If you do, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. It does help my channel out, and if you have not subscribed, I hope that you will and that you'll stick around. So I have had a few questions about canning ham and how I can my ham. So today I'm actually going to be processing this ham for canning and freezing, and this is just a shank ham. It's hickory smoked. It's your typical Christmas or Easter ham. They're on sale right now. So I picked one up, and normally you bring it home and you bake it for Christmas or Easter dinner. I do not bake mine. It's fully cooked. It's smoked, so it's already fully cooked. And I have baked it before canning it, and I find that makes it stringy and tough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to process this down. I'm going to cut some, I wouldn't call them ham steaks, but basically some ham steaks. I'm going to debone it, and I'm going to dice up a good bit of it. Most of my recipes are for diced ham or cubed ham. So most of the things that I use my canned ham for are diced ham. And I will dice the majority of this. Now, I do not can sliced ham. I feel like it's tough and stringy. But the diced ham seems to hold up just fine. So I'm going to pull over a stool because I'm having one of those days today. And I'm going to start processing this. And once I get it processed, once I get it all broke down, I am going to take all of the trimmings and the bone, and I've got another bone in the freezer that I pulled out, and I'm going to put them both in a roaster and roast them for a little bit, and then I'm going to make broth that I will use when I start canning later. But first, I'm going to take the bone out. And it will look like there's nothing on my counter, but I have a cutting mat that I'm putting back here to lay my meat pieces on. So I'm going to take this and I am going to add it to the other one that I have. I'm going to stick them in the oven and I'm going to roast them for about 45 minutes. And then I'm going to just cover them with water, and I am going to simmer them on low for about 10 hours. And that will make the ham broth that I can in. Might be one more chunk there that I can get off. Well, and that worked for that, and it was mostly fat, so that's going to go in the roasting pan. Okay, we're going to call this deboned. Most of the pieces that I see left are attached to big chunks of fat. Alright, so I'm going to put this in the oven, and then I'll come back and I will start slicing and dicing on this. Okay, now that I've got the bones in the oven roasting, I can start working on this. And I want to start by cutting the pieces that I'm going to freeze. And I like to cut a few, they're not quite ham steaks, but let's call them ham steaks. I like to cut a few ham steaks to freeze so that I can just pull a couple out of the freezer, cook them for breakfast, cook them for dinner. So I'm going to start with those. And I'm going to split this in half to cut those from. Okay, so that is going to end up going in my freezer. Everything else I am going to dice up and can, because that is, honestly, that's how I eat my ham most of the time, is diced in olives or in casseroles. So to me, that's just the most practical way to process it. And if that's not the way that your family eats their ham, then by all means, process it the way that works for you. And I do perfectly imperfect dices and cubes, and then I will also be trimming pieces that will get added to my stock or my broth as I go. So let's make a little space right here on the corner of this pan. And basically all that I do is I take the ham and I slice it into somewhere between a 1/2 and a 1/4 inch. And then I dice it. Just as simple as that. It's not perfect. It doesn't have to be. I'm not that picky about exact pieces. And as I go, as you've seen, as I go, if there's a piece that has a lot of fat or a heavy piece of skin, I just add that to the trim, and I will put all of the trimming into the stock when I get ready to start simmering my stock. So I am going to dice up the rest of this, and it will go in my refrigerator overnight while I make stock, and then tomorrow I will jar it up and can it. So when it's time to jar it up and can it, I will bring you back and show you how I do that. So I've taken the bones and everything that I trimmed off of the ham, and the bone that I had in the freezer that I was saving to make ham stock with. And I put it in the oven and I roasted it for about an hour and a half at 375. And now I've taken all of the drippings and all of the renderings and the bones and I put them in my stock pot and I've just covered them with water. And I am going to bring this up to a simmer and I'm going to let it simmer for at least 6 hours. And I'll check it and see where it's at. It might go 12 or up to 12 hours. I'll check it along the way. So once this is done and cooled enough that I can deal with it, I'll bring you back and I'll can some ham. Okay, I got my ham all diced up and I took the bone from that ham and the bones that I had in the freezer and all the scraps and I put them in my electric cooker and I simmered them actually for 24 hours and then I strained it and let it cool and I took the fat layer off of it, so I've got some really good ham broth. And what I'm going to do now is I am going to jar this up. Now, I like to jar it in half pints. It's just me. Typically I use this for casseroles and I rarely need more than about a cup at a time because I cut my recipes down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put roughly a cup. It's a half a pint, so it holds about a cup into each jar. And I'll pack it down just a little bit. And I'm going to leave a 1-inch headspace roughly. When I debubble it, it'll go down just a little bit more. And then I'm going to fill them with the ham broth and I'm going to process them for meat times. So I'm going to go ahead and get all of my jars filled. Now that I have my jars filled, where's my debubbler? I'm going to top them up with just the ham broth. Hopefully without making too much of a mess. Debubble them, and it's packed in pretty tight. Sometimes it's kind of hard to tell because ham floats. Alright, I'm going to adjust a couple. My hands are clean, y'all. I always end up with comments about me using my hands, but I've had hands a lot longer than I've known how to use a fork. Alright, so I just have some plain white vinegar in a paper towel. I'm going to wipe the rims. to get the lids on, just going fingertip tight. Okay, so I'm going to get these in the canner and I'm going to bring it up to steam. I'm going to let them vent for 10 minutes and then I will bring them up to pressure and I will process these for 75 minutes. Half pints and pints get processed at 75 minutes. If I were doing pint and a half or quart, I would do 90 minutes. So I'm going to get these processed, and once that 75 minutes is up, I'll turn off the heat, I'll let them come down off of pressure naturally, and then I'll take the lid off and I'll let them sit for about 5 minutes before I take them out. But when it's time to take them out, I will bring you back and show you how it turned out. Okay, I brought the canner up to steam and I let it vent for 10 minutes, and then I put the weight on and I brought it up to pressure and I let it process for 75 minutes. Then I turn the heat off and I let it come down off of pressure. Then I took the lid off and they've been sitting for, I don't know, 5-6 minutes. I've been hearing them seal. Let me start getting them out. And it is just ham chunks ready to use in casseroles or whatever recipe you might have. I use this usually for my ham and broccoli casserole that I really love. And I use this in all of my cordon bleu recipes. Now, again, this particular ham I did not pre-bake. I personally think that the pre-bake, if you buy a ham and you bake it before you can it, I personally think that it overcooks when you process it. That's just my personal opinion. I know people who bake them and can what's left over. I usually freeze whatever's left over. But again, that is absolutely a personal preference. So I will leave these sitting here until sometime tomorrow. Tomorrow I will come back and I will take off the rings and check the seals. I will wash and label my jars and I will put them in the pantry. And this is good in your pantry for as long as the seals hold up. This is enough for me probably for at least a year, maybe even longer. I usually can ham about once a year, usually around Christmas time, or if they don't have one on sale that I decide to get at Christmas, I usually get one at Easter. It's a seasonal thing. I get them when they're on sale. I really hope that you enjoyed the video today. If you did, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. It really does help my channel out. And if you have not subscribed, I really hope that you will. If you hit the notification bell, YouTube should notify you when I upload a new video based on your settings. Y'all, thank you so much for watching today. Y'all have a great day.